This is the Franchise QB Podcast, where we empower entrepreneurs to win big in franchising. We huddle up weekly to educate our audience about the most successful small business model ever created, franchising.
Welcome to the Franchise QB Podcast. I'm your host, Mike Halpern, a 20-year industry veteran and entrepreneur. My mission is for listeners to achieve their American dreams of creating wealth and independence through franchise ownership. Every week, we speak with franchisees, franchisors, or vendors that support the industry. Thank you for joining us, and let's get started. Joining us in the huddle today is Sanjay Gehani, Partner and Chief Revenue Officer with Building Kidz School. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Mike. Good to be in the huddle on the QB podcast. This is great.
Awesome.
Thanks for the opportunity.
Yeah, thank you for joining. So let's talk about your background. You earned your MBA. Mm-hmm. You spent 15 years working in Silicon Valley for a semiconductor manufacturer. This is really interesting to me. You were elected to the City Council of Foster City, California, where you live. You eventually worked your way up to vice mayor, and then you were the very first mayor of Indian descent in the history of Foster City. That's a big deal. So tell us about how that all got started and how you got into public service.
Oh, how it all got started. I mean, I think really it's all about grace of God, hard work, good luck, right? Are the three critical components, I think, to anyone who's successful. But, you know, when it came to high tech, it was just really about coming back to Silicon Valley, coming back home and being able to, provide for the family and really work on a career, not just a job. Right. When it came to public service, as you know, with anything else, I think it's a calling. It's not politics for me. It was like, really, it's a village that I was raised in. And I believe in servant leadership. And so from my side, it was more about, serving my community, creating an opportunity where we could have transparent, respectful representation. Because we were struggling with that. Culturally, yeah. We were having some challenges at the council level where members of our community were being berated. It wasn't a friendly place to come in and share your thoughts. Okay. And I didn't want my son or my wife, my mom, my sister, father to be a part of that type of environment. So instead of kind of complaining about it from the sidelines, I decided to throw my hat in the ring and see if I could be a part of that change.
Man, that takes a lot of courage. That's really awesome. Thanks for sharing that with us. And you and I have something else in common. We were both involved in Little League. Yeah. I know that you were kind of at a board level. I did a lot of coaching with my kids when they were coming up. Yours are a little younger than mine, might have aged out and went on to the big field. So tell us about your involvement in kind of youth soccer coaching and then your involvement in Little League.
Yeah, I mean, just kind of grew up playing team sports and was pretty competitive in it. Unfortunately, didn't have a career in it, but always wanted one in the team sports that I was playing in. And so I thought, why not take some of the skills that I'd learned and some of the best practices that I'd learned and worked on and the work ethic that I had and apply it to helping children achieve their dreams. And so I'm on the board of Little League. I coach. We got All-Stars coming up, here in the next week, which is exciting for Little League. But, as you know, Mike, there's like travel ball, you help with that and basketball and all the stuff that goes on with that as well. But, at the end of the day, I think it's just really about how I want to spend my time. And I love spending it with my son. My wife loves sports too, so it becomes easy. My parents came to all my games. They're coming to all their grandsons' games now. My sister's attending too, so it becomes a family affair. It gives us an opportunity to kind of support my son and at the same time spend some time together.
Yeah, that's really neat. And I was telling you when we were talking before we went live is I got a text this morning from a mom, and I coached her daughter 10 years ago in Little League, and now she's going off to college in about a year, and she's doing showcases. And she was just like, thanks to you and your coaching staff for giving her confidence to get out there and do this. And it's super fulfilling. Like, just like you, managing your career and also giving back to the community. It's just really rewarding emotionally when you hear those kinds of things. So I'm the son of an elementary school teacher. So my mom, she goes anywhere in town, everyone knows her because she taught pretty much every kid. So I just got, I saw her and I'm like, how can I kind of participate in the community like that? So that's really cool that you do that as well. So,
Likewise.
yeah, thanks, man. So we're here today to talk about Building Kidz School. You're a partner in Building Kidz, Chief Revenue Officer, Chief Financial Officer, which is a really interesting concept. So tell us, what is Building Kidz School?
No, at the highest level, we're preschool,
Okay.
infant, toddler care, ages 2 through 6 at the preschool level. We also have a private kindergarten, and we have after school programs up until 6th grade. So at a very, very basic level, if you wanted to bin us into a category, we're a
Hmm.
preschool concept, but there's so much about us that makes us so different from not only every other preschool concept, but even as a franchisor makes us different. And then even as a company, we're very different. So, if we get a chance to chat a little bit about that, I'd be happy to dive into those details. But at the highest level, we're a preschool concept, brick and mortar preschool concept.
Yeah, okay. And that's exactly where I was going next, because there's thousands of preschools out there across the coast. What makes Building Kidz School unique as it relates to an experience for the families and for the kids, as well as for a franchise owner? I know they're very different questions, but really curious about, kind of what makes Building Kidz what it is.
No, sure. Let's start with the children, right? So if you were to walk into a Building Kids preschool that had infants all the way up until 5-year-olds, and we walked
Okay.
into an infant room, you wouldn't just see nurturing caregivers for those infants and young toddlers. You would actually be hearing music. You'd be seeing manipulatives that they couldn't put in their mouth, but to help them with fine motor skill, gross motor skill development. And that music being played is helping to accelerate some of the neurological development because, as our brain develops to almost 95% in the first 5 to 6 years of life, right? So
Hmm.
very critical time for development. So we started very young. We start to accelerate development at a very young age. As the children get a little bit older, we start introducing elements like dance, different types of dance, because we fundamentally believe that all children are born artists, that all of us love singing, dancing when we're younger, love mimicking older adults, mimicking others that are influential in our life into how we live and how we go through our day-to-day activities. So we want to leverage that connection to create an exceptional developmental environment for our children. And so as the children get a little bit older, they get a little bit of dance, and it's cute to see the children dance, but what they're really getting is balance. They're really working on their gross motor skills. And as their fingers start working a little bit better and their hand-eye coordination starts improving, we start doing some of the fine arts to really accelerate some of the fine motor skill development and that connection between, your hands and your eyes and your mind. But we don't stop there, right? So all of our children get music classes, dance classes, theater classes. They learn a foreign language, Spanish. And that's happening in a developmentally appropriate environment. It's getting
Hmm.
integrated into how the children are learning and developing. And that's a full scaffolded approach that goes on from a very young age. You could see that entire curriculum kind of pull all the way through to 5-year-olds, and you can see the connection between what the 5-year-olds are doing and what the 2-year-olds are doing, just at different levels.
Right.
So we have that piece, and then we overlay and 2 times a year Broadway style production where
Very
children are
cool.
getting up on stage, and so they get a tremendous amount of confidence performing in front of people twice their size, but they also
Yeah.
get a lot of life skills, man. They're collaborating with their friends towards a common goal when they're rehearsing, and so
I
they're
mean,
doing
that
that.
sounds like a lot of fun. And it also, I mean, you said the word I was thinking, which is confidence, because when you stand up in front of a crowd and you've worked hard on something and you've trained and you're prepared, then you can kind of be yourself and let it rip because you've already
Yeah.
done the work. So it's just kind of cool to see at a very young age, giving them the confidence to just get up there and do something. So that's really, really neat.
No, I appreciate that. And so that's kind of what you're seeing with like the 2-year-olds, 3-year-olds, 4-year-olds, 5-year-olds. They're developing in front of their parents' eyes through these shows and through the work that they're doing throughout the time with us. And then as the children get a little bit older, we backtrack in the academic expectations of elementary schools that they're going to be going into to ensure that we're exceeding those. But the way that we really integrate music and dance into those academic elements makes us unique for the children as well. So they're pretty much going into elementary school well prepared academically. The biggest challenge for them is going to be the new environment. So that's kind of what it's like for the children.
Okay.
On top of the performing arts piece, we have this entire new concept called learning through life experiences, which is actually physical areas that children can go in and role play. So just a quick example. You get two kids, one kid's going to play the clerk at a grocery store. The whole grocery store is kind of set up where they can go in and play there. The other child's going to be a customer. And the child that's a customer, she's going to come in with instructions to get very healthy foods. Just pick up healthy foods. There's healthy and unhealthy choices. Pick up healthy foods. Here's some money for you. Go in, pick up these healthy foods, and check out with the right amount of cash as your receipt. Get your receipt, get the money back, get and walk out. So she's now working with the clerk who's checking her out. The clerk's got to take the prices of the foods, get the right amount of money, figure out the change, engage with the customer, have some eye contact, some dialogue, and then that simple piece is just one small example of a curriculum that is fully set up for every day of every week, of every month, of every year, right? So gets pulled in.
Really interesting. I mean, I like the fact you take the fundamental academics, you combine it with the performing arts, and then you give them real world role-playing experiences. I mean, it seems like these are going to be highly employable people when they come out because they're going to be so well-rounded, but that's just a really great skill. I mean, I remember back to when I went to Montessori school, 40 plus years ago, and some of the stuff we did there, I still remember, like taking maps and taking pins and kind of locating different geographies. And we had a whole setup for basically like a dishwasher and a wash rack and like how to do basic chores and stuff like that. So you remember those things and they help you build life skills while you're going to be at preschool anyway. So might as well figure out what it's like to live, and that's really neat. You guys do that. So from the standpoint, you mentioned curriculum. I know curriculum's a big deal when it comes to any school. And that's probably where the franchise owner comes in. So I'm sure a lot of what they're buying into is your curriculum. So can you talk a little bit about that and kind of how that benefits an owner? Because clearly starting a school on your own is a Herculean task. And for anyone that's looking in this space, they want to find one that's, the right investment, the right footprint, the right support, but also the right curriculum.
No, absolutely. And for us, it's really important to have autonomy and accountability for our franchisees and their staff to breathe life into our curriculum for the children that they have in their care. And so we have everything documented every single minute of every single day throughout the year, what should be taught in every single classroom for every child at developmental stages for that child. So it doesn't have to be, age appropriate, it's more developmentally appropriate. All of that's documented and how to deliver it. All of that is there. We stopped counting. I mean, we have to, for our disclosure document, count the number of pages in our operations manual, but it weighs about 20 pounds. And so, right. And so we don't want to just hand that over to a franchisee and say, thank you so much for choosing us. We what we want to do is say, we believe in the relationship. Everything you'll find here at the Building Kidz family is relationship driven, whether it's with the parents and being partners to them in the development of their children, or it's with the franchisees and being partners with them in really enabling their dream to come true for financial independence, as well as, leaving a legacy in their community and how they're helping their community. And so we have full support for operations, marketing, finance, to the tune of our ratio of staff to open franchise locations that are open. It's almost 1-to-1, which is almost unheard of, right? With regards to
that is usually it's 6 or 7 to 1.
That's right. And we've done that intentionally because we believe that if you really want to nurture these relationships, especially when they're first starting out, and the franchisees aren't going to need as much from us in year 2, year 3, year 4, 5, beyond, right? But we really want to ensure that those early years, that all of our franchisees feel completely nurtured from a marketing, operations, and financial oversight perspective. So they get dedicated staff members that support them on that journey early on. We also provide training on their campus. So instead of just asking a franchisee to keep seeing us in Foster City and flying out for training, or just come in once and let's just pour all this training into you and say, hey, let's check the box. You've been trained, you're ready to go. We actually spoon feed our franchisees what they need, when they need it, and they don't always have to come to us. We actually come out 3 times to our franchisees, once before opening, twice after, to provide the appropriate training at the time that they need it with their staff on their campus. So it's very prescriptive. It's not the cheapest thing for us to do. It's a lot easier for us to aggregate everybody here and just deliver the training once. But we really want the franchisees to feel that we're deeply committed to them and the relationship. And so we're happy to do it this way. So that's
awesome.
a part that's a part of, like, with the franchisees. And then obviously there's a tremendous amount of differentiators with regards to opening, size, investment. Happy to get
We'll get
into
into some of that.
Yeah.
So you mentioned the word community, and let's talk about the ideal franchise partner for you. I'm assuming that aside from the financial and business acumen, you want them to have like a real passion for community. I would imagine that's an important trait to have as an owner in this, because you're taking care of families and kids.
Absolutely. We're not making sandwiches. You're right. You're absolutely right. And so for us,
So what do you look for? Like, what's kind of the ideal candidate look like for you guys?
yeah, I mean, I can definitely rattle off, characteristics of people that are super successful within a system. But, I think I'd start off with looking at the world through concentric circles. The most immediate and inner circle is that you have a deep desire to help children develop, like we do. Like, that's a core piece of your happiness, your soul. Like, it's food for your soul, that you're spending your time helping the lives of these young lives accelerate their development at a very critical time in their life. That's one piece. The second one, that I think the franchisees that do great with, and the next concentric circle around that, is that you really want to be a leader, but you want to lead through action and by creating a supportive environment. And you want to create that supportive environment for your teachers. You really focus on creating a tremendously energetic and healthy environment for those around you. And you're not going to be leading a team of 100. These organizations at the franchisee level range from 4 to 5 teachers to 30 teachers, maybe max, in a bigger school, right? So really, like, motivating, enabling, supporting, creating that nurturing environment. And then you want to be a partner to parents in the development of their children. And you really want them to feel that this is more than a preschool. So doing events for parents, being outspoken, being a little bit extroverted, being comfortable in your own skin, while also having, the financial capacity to invest in the right places and the analytical thinking processes to think as a business person, but not just looking at the numbers, looking at what's best for, the school itself, being able to balance that. And then the fourth circle, I think, is really the community and being a part of that community. And we really enable that. We have a 501c3 called Building Futures Worldwide, in which we dedicate 25% of our profits to helping underprivileged children right here at home and around the world through that 501c3 with no impact to franchisees. But we're committed to helping orphan and abandoned children, children with hearing disabilities, vision impairment. We pay for their surgeries, and children with juvenile diabetes research. We dedicate money to finding a cure for that. And so, the franchisees that are attracted to that we do it, and that they're also doing it locally, they're more than just a preschool. And it's not a Building Kidz preschool. It's that franchisee's preschool that just happens to be called Building Kidz. Right. So someone who can really articulate through energy or through words, or really share with people who they are and why they're there, their why, they're the ones who really do the best.
Yeah,
because
I can see how they would just thrive in this model. Like, if you just want to be a key connector in the community, you're a leader, you're just outgoing, and I've talked to candidates before that look at the space, and they sent their kids to a preschool that was like really great for their kids, and they're like, hey, 10, 15 years later, the families that we met there through our kids are the ones we still hang out with today. So they kind of go through them through grade school and into college and even beyond.
Right. And I think creating that environment where it's not just a connection between the parent and the teacher, or the parent and the director at the school, but the parents and the parents, right? Like, creating that network, right? And creating those opportunities, because, candidly, when our children, come home for the first time, as babies, we don't get an ops manual. Right? We don't, as parents, we're like, just a pat on the back, congratulations, like feed them, clean them, love them, and it's like, okay, and the more that I think we can, as leaders in the early childhood education space, disseminate really intelligent information through the network to these parents, we can become more of a support organization for our parents that choose us as a preschool, but really partner with them and support them with really good knowledge on what to expect in their child's development in the early years so they can start learning about it and then seeing it, and then we collaboratively can support it. So what's happening in the school, what's happening at home, we're doing it together so that the child is getting, a great environment throughout the day to develop.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. I love it. So you find the right candidate. They seem like a perfect match for you guys, and they join the system. Let's talk about where to place this thing, because obviously within the community, location, location, location. So does Building Kidz assist a new franchise owner with site selection, and how long does it take? I know that's a loaded question, and it's going to be a big it depends. But generally speaking, when the franchise owner signs the franchise agreement, how long is it till the opening of their school? So if you can address those two things, that'd be great.
Absolutely, Mike. My commitment to every single candidate that has signed on with us is, as one of the owners of the company, you will not take any step alone. We're going to be with you every step of the way. That's my commitment. That's what we do here. That's what the team delivers on. So when it comes to opening and where and how to open, that's one of the things that we've done exceptionally well, is kind of turn franchising on its ear. It's not just one model that works for us. We have franchise locations that are open, campuses that are open in churches, standalone buildings, retail centers, converted homes, in church.
Really flexible footprint.
Super flexible footprint. The smallest school is 27 children, largest over 200. Franchisee gets to choose that investment. And even the services that are offered on the campus. Every Building Kidz campus offers services ages 2 through 5, but it's a franchisee's choice. They want to do infants and toddlers, after school up until 6th grade. So it's a lot of customizing, which really gives our franchisees a huge opportunity to get into the market where the real estate is, as opposed to, I need to find this one type of real estate. The way they open, thank you. Also the way they open, you don't have to buy a piece of dirt and build and take a huge loan out and build a world-class campus and then fill it up and have an equity play in real estate if you don't want to have it. On the other end of the spectrum, you can buy a school that's for sale, that's already licensed, already running, has ROI on day one, and convert it to Building Kidz. So,
what kind of mix of your total system has done the conversion?
Quite a bit. I would say over 30%, 40%. Yeah. And that's our preferred model, because it's actually a risk reduction option, right? It's already licensed, already has staff, it already has a curriculum that we've already done the due diligence on, that we know that we can enhance and give our families even more. They're already attracted to parts of the curriculum that they're getting today. We are enhancing it, so they're going to get more for the same price. So retention's easier. And in the middle, by the way, you can open in a shell, right? Like, as I mentioned, in all those various physical locations. So the actual time, and we've studied this, is about a year. We give our franchisees 18 months before minimum royalties kick in, which I'll say this openly. If you're actively looking, I'm not interested in your minimum royalties. I'm just putting that as a placeholder. I don't want someone to buy an agreement and lock it down and not use it. And so it's really more about, let's get going. But we've had franchisees that have come in and done all the right things. And some of them open in 3 months. Some of them open like on the 19th or 20th month. And we have not charged those franchisees minimum royalties. And so to date, it's about a year, about almost like 400 days.
So in the circumstance where the existing school is converted into a Building Kidz, is it generally something that the franchise owner identifies in their market? Is it Building Kidz? Is it the broker? Is it kind of like it just happens? It might be all three of those things. What normally happens during that conversion process? Who identifies that school? And do they normally buy the Building Kidz franchise license and then go out there shopping for schools to flip, or is it the other way around?
No, great question. So I ask my candidates to cross 3 bridges before they sign with us. Number one, there's a passion for you. Number two, there's an opportunity for another preschool in your community, and we help them do that assessment without violating any franchise laws and enticing them to sign with us on things that are not in our disclosure document. But we say, hey, this is what you can do to prove to yourself that there's a market for preschools. So I want them to cross that bridge, and that we're the right company to do it with. So usually when the franchise candidates cross those three bridges, they sign with us. They start the onboarding with us. They don't have a location identified. And then the way they find a location is we train, support, guide, motivate to franchisees to go out and look for locations and how to assess them. But we also have in-house support where we're looking for locations as well in the areas that our franchisees are. So the way it works is if a franchisee finds a location, that's 100% theirs as we go through due diligence. If they pass on it, somebody else wants it, they can put it into the pool. If they don't pass on it, it's 100% theirs, they take it. If we find the location, then we just go in order of who's been looking the longest in that area. And we just start going down. And all of our franchisees, because we're so flexible, they come with various levels of investment capacity.
Sure.
Because we're all about the relationship. So not everybody that I want to do business with has the same investment capacity. And so in some cases, it's too big, it's too small, it's too far away, whatnot. So we just kind of go down the list and then we go to a franchisee that it works for, and we move forward with the due diligence process together there.
That's awesome. Thanks for kind of clarifying that. And then I wanted to touch on the labor model, and I guess that's also going to depend because the labor model in a school that has 26 students versus a school with 200 students are going to have a different teacher capacity. But what is the expectation when, we find a site, we're building it out? What kind of staff? I mean, you need a center director. I mean, who are the key players? And I guess probably the number of teachers is a direct correlation with how many students we expect. But what does that look like when a new owner launches their business? So they can kind of wrap their head around what's their staffing model going to look like.
Yeah, no, absolutely. What we do is when we have an opportunity that is not an acquisition and conversion that's actively working right now, but it's a new site or a new remodel, let's say, we're designing that space with the franchisee. And based on the age of the children that you want coming in, you're going to have a certain ratio that you need to meet. So we identify what that staff's going to look like at 3 years out, 2 years out, 1 year out, on day one, and do a full pro forma with our franchisees that takes all of that into account along with revenue and all the other expenses. And so from a labor perspective, if you're in, let's say California, the ratios, it's defined not by Building Kidz, it's actually defined by the rules and regulations of the state. Okay. And it's 1 to 12 ratio. We usually operate at like 1 to 10 for preschoolers, ages 2 through 5. As you get younger, like if you go all the way to the infants, the ratio is 1 to 4. So as we're designing the space, if we're going to have infants, we're going to have toddlers, we're going to need to know exactly how many lead teachers we need, how many teachers we need that are going to be playing supporting roles. And then as you get into the bigger schools, you absolutely everyone needs a director for sure. Mm-hmm. In the smaller schools, the director can kind of play multiple roles and like kind of floating around, giving breaks, things like that to the teachers. In the bigger schools, you want to have even an assistant director, at least 2 people in the front office. And they're kind of sharing some of those responsibilities, but they're really focusing on really driving that relationship with a larger group of parents. And that takes a significant amount of time as well.
Okay. Yeah, I wanted to talk about revenue. I know in some models there's like all these different streams. I'm assuming this is, parents pay the tuition and that's it. I mean, is that the primary and only source? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I figured as much. I just asked the question because you never know. Yeah. So tell us about the team that you've built around you to support the owners. What's your executive team look like?
Right. So, Vanita Bandari, who's the founder and CEO of Building Kidz, started in 2003 with her first school. Okay. And then Sangeet Karamchandani, my other partner, and we joined her in 2014 formally, and then we started franchising in 2015, 2016. And we come from similar and various backgrounds in the sense that, all of us have a master's or an MBA. Vanita's strong, had a master's in finance, was in consulting, bright future ahead of her before she decided to walk away from that career because her daughter was diagnosed with juvenile diabetes, removed from her preschool. So she opened up her own. That was kind of how we started there. Super strong business skills. She drives a lot of the curriculum development, new initiatives from a business side. our performing arts integration. She's overseeing that. She works with the franchisees through her team on all marketing activities to drive revenue for them and increase their enrollment. Sangeet comes from engineering background, master's in engineering, leading organizations, and he oversees all of our operations. And so not only for us here, but for the staff that helps the franchisees on all operational oversight, pre-opening activities, post-opening activities, ongoing support and guidance on the operational side. And then my background's in electrical engineering. I got an MBA in marketing, leading organizations. I was managing a portfolio of business in Europe and Asia before I left corporate America. I had 15 years with one company and just grew with them. But for me, it's franchise development. It's overseeing the revenue of the company, overseeing the profitability of the franchisees we collect, their P&Ls on a quarterly basis, and work with them to actively drive profitability, not just top line generation, but really like ROI for them. So I help them with that, and then I oversee all the financial reporting for not only our franchise system, but all the company-owned locations that we have as well.
Yeah. I mean, what's really interesting, there's a misconception out there about franchising that it's all like super strict and rigid and it's my way or the highway. And you guys are a perfect example at Building Kidz of how there's a lot of flexibility. I mean, obviously there's certain things that the franchise owner have to abide by based on regulations as well as the franchise agreement. But you have this huge variance in footprint, which means huge variance in investment, big variance in how many people you need to operate the facility. This really interesting curriculum. So it's really custom, it's like really customizable. When the owners come in, their input and their knowledge of the community is going to be a really impactful in this model. So all that stuff has got to be pretty exciting to someone that wants a proven, predictable, steady model, but they don't want to, go out there and try to figure it out all for themselves.
No, I think you nailed it, Mike. I mean, that's what we were hoping for, right? For us, it wasn't about one type of franchisee, one type of model, and that's it. And we really want to work with people who want to do great things for their community. And
That's
this
awesome.
is just a vehicle for them to just exercise those muscles.
So you've been with the company 10 years. So where are you now in terms of how many franchise locations are open and operating? How many are kind of in the funnel that are in various stages of development? What's that look like today?
Yeah, so we got 38 franchise locations operating across 8 states. We've signed 74 agreements. We've got 12 in the funnel right now. But I think, what you're going to see over the next few years is a real acceleration in opening. There's a lot of things that Sangeet's done to really to minimize that time, and it's really exciting because I think at the current rate we're looking at like 10, 12 openings a year, but starting next year I think we're probably going to see closer to 20 and change. So there's there's more opportunity for us. The 74 agreements that we've signed, there's more opportunity for us to really expand. There's a lot of quote unquote territories that are wide open. We don't sell territories. What we do is you sign a franchise agreement. Once we identify a location with you, we'll do the assessment, nighttime, daytime population, demographics, the size of your school, the competition, all that stuff, and we'll give a radius of protection. Okay. So even we have multiple Building Kidz schools within a city of like 35, 40,000 people. Or 100,000 people can have like 2 or 3, So,
okay.
So yeah.
Yeah, I was going to ask that question. That's really cool. So your item 7, I know you touched on this before. It shows a range of 266 to 1.3 because I know you have to show what was the most expensive acquisition or build out and the least expensive. But, with financing, you can get into this deal with under 100,000 of liquid capital if you're doing a smaller school. Then obviously, if you're better capitalized, you want to build a 200, student platform, you can do that. So I think that's really accessible for a lot of investors that are looking to get into the education space.
Yeah, that's what we believe, and absolutely. And that was the whole idea, right? Make it yours. You want to go we generally don't recommend going below 50 kids. We've been really opportunistic on the schools. We got 2 of them at 27 children, but for the most part, it's about 50 kids is the smallest one, and you absolutely can get in. It's just a matter of, I think if you really want it, right? That's the main thing. You really want,
Yeah.
this is really what you want to do. You're ready to go all out and get it done. Because as you know, like, entrepreneurship's not for the faint of heart, right? This is, you're going to spend your life like most people won't for a few years, hopefully, so you can live the rest of your life like most people can't. And I think, to me, like anybody that's coming into this business, the money part's super important, but it's also your heart, your mind. It's like having a child, right? It's going to pull on you when you're
Yeah.
tired. It's going to be super rewarding. It's going to be challenging, right? But the nice thing is, like, the 3 years of a business is like 18 years of a child, right? If you can just survive and just keep things moving for 3 years, the chances of your business succeeding over a long period of time are much higher. And so for us, it's not about just surviving the first 3 years. We actually, everything that we look at, we try to do with franchisees, is how do we get that rate of return to
Yep.
3 years?
Yeah, and talking about the rate of return, I was impressed with your item 19. You have 9 charts that I found to be really useful that breaks it down. So is there anything you can share with us regarding the item 19 today?
Yeah, absolutely. At the highest levels, our top performers are doubling the industry average. Our middle
Okay.
performers are exceeding the industry average for EBITDA profitability by like almost 40%, in the sense that, generally speaking, 15%, 13 to 15% is the average EBITDA in our
Okay.
industry. And our middle of the middle performers are at 25%.
Wow.
So like, so even if you go below that, you're still outperforming, the industry average. And then of course,
Speaks
and then,
volumes. I mean, that is tremendous performance within this category.
yeah, no, it's something that we're being recognized for, and people are seeing it, and our franchisees are talking about it, and they're, you can live in the quadrant of doing great things for your community and making a lot of money doing it, and it's justified in the sense that the quality of the service, the environment that you're providing, is world class. It's at the high end, and we accept children that come from economically challenged backgrounds as well. Subsidy, like they're getting subsidy support from states, federal government. We welcome all of them in. We got about 12 to 14% of children that are coming into our schools are coming from economically challenged backgrounds. But you can't deliver this service and be the low cost leader. It just costs
Yeah.
too much to create the environment. And so, our franchisees are doing a great job of articulating the value to parents. Parents come in, they're signing up before they walk away from the tour. And it's great because at the end of the day, I think it's really helping our franchisees achieve a level of financial independence that they didn't expect to be able to do, in this lifetime.
Yeah, I mean, you guys have got it all figured out. Sounds like a phenomenal opportunity. We've shared a lot today. Anything else you want to add to the mix before we wrap up?
No, Mike, thank you so much for the opportunity to be here with you, man. And I appreciate everything that you're doing, and giving us an opportunity to share our story with the world. So I appreciate you, Mike.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you as well. It was really nice speaking with you. And if anybody listening wants to connect with Sanjay to discuss franchising with Building Kidz, contact me at franchiseqb.com or on Twitter at QBFranchiseQB. I'll get you connected with Sanjay and his team. Thanks so much, Sanjay, for taking the time to get in the huddle and speak with us about Building Kidz School.
Thanks, Mike.
Awesome. Thank you for listening to the Franchise QB podcast, where you're at the helm of your future as a franchise owner. If you enjoyed the content, please rate the show and recommend it to anyone that might be interested in franchising. Make sure to visit franchiseqb.com to subscribe to my newsletter and for an actionable playbook to go from walk-on to legend in your new business. Follow us on Twitter at QBFranchiseQB and join us every week for a new episode. See you next time.
Visit franchiseqb.com to take the next step of your journey towards wealth, independence, and franchise ownership. And remember, when working for the man gets old, you must do something bold. Thank you for listening.